Welcome back, everybody. So my next movie review for you is Predator 2. So Predator 2 was directed by Stephen Hopkins. It was released on the 21st of November 1990. It was made on a budget of $35 million and made $57.1 million, which actually does quite surprise me a little bit. Knowing that, obviously, I kind of expected it to just earn a bit more on its box office release. I know that this was released in 1990 and chances are it's made more money since then. I just found it like a bit of a shock that it only made $57.1 million. Okay, fair enough, this movie hasn't got Arnie Schwarzenegger in it, but essentially this is still a sequel to the Predator movie. And maybe I'm just reading a bit too much into this. I just kind of expected it to do or make a little bit more money on its release. So in this movie, Los Angeles is enduring a heat wave and a crime wave. We have a police officer in the form of Michael Harrigan, played by Danny Glover, who's basically trying to police or do his best to police this drug war which is going on in Los Angeles. He also then has to try and solve a very strange string of murders happening in this city. Meanwhile, we have this FBI special agent in the city in the form of Peter Keyes, played by Gary Busey, who basically knows the truth on who is actually committing all these strange string of murders, which is in the form of a fearsome extraterrestrial known as we know him, the Predator, he is played by him, who is played by the late Kevin Peter Hall. Now, what do I honestly love about this movie? I actually do enjoy this whole movie. Okay, fair enough, it doesn't have the same feel as the first movie. The first movie is my favourite Predator movie, end of story. That being said, it's still an enjoyable watch. You get to see a bit more of the Predator and a bit more of its weaponry as well, which I like. This is the first part that I like of it. This movie is obviously like set in Los Angeles. There's a lot of crime. It's shown the predators are kind of attracted to the heat as well, and obviously there's conflict in there, and he's just basically watching everything that's going on. And as we all know, if you point a gun at the predator, it becomes a complete badass and starts ripping you apart with all of its weapons, and you get to see more of his weaponry or his arsenal in this movie. There is a different look to this predator. It's got a different mask, which I think is a very, very nice touch. But its weaponry is a lot more advanced, I think, than the one we had in the first one. If I was to choose between the look of each Predator from the first one and the second one, I would always choose the first one. But I just like, I just like the weaponry on this Predator. The other good part about this Predator as well is it is played by the same person who played it in the first one, the late Kevin Peter Hall. So I always have a problem with the later Predator movies about how they move and how they move around, the way they work and all that kind of stuff. And Kevin Peter Hall put his own stamp on this, and I'm glad that he come back to do this next one because the movement of the Predator still felt the same as what it did. The later ones, there's something wrong, there's something off. I think they're just trying to copy it too much, and it doesn't really work for me. Like I said, I mentioned the weaponry, just the way he is in this, it's just a Predator. He's exactly the same, but just in a damn different environment, and there's a lot more killing from him as well, and some of them are quite brutal in ways, and you don't get more of a backstory to the Predators or their race, but there's more there to work on. It's not so much of a mystery anymore. We know it's an extraterrestrial that's come because it's said in the first one, but you get to know or find out just a little bit more, which I'm going to touch on in a minute. The performances in this are okay. I'm not a huge fan of Gary Busey anyway. Not a massive fan of him, but he comes across in this movie as this kind of arrogant asshole, basically, and it works, to be fair. It really does. I have to be honest with you. You can see he's an FBI agent who's trying to hunt down this alien and trying to freeze it so they can study it. He's everything I expected him to be. Like I said, I'm just not a huge fan of Gary Busey's acting, just as it is. But the role he played in here, I think he played it really, really well. Now we go on to one of the main characters in this movie. So, Danny Glover as Michael Harrigan. I'm going to get it right. 1 point, I'm going to get it right. So, his performance in here, once again, he is a very heated, kind of angry kind of cop. And when one of his mates gets basically murdered, and he thinks it's like the drug people that done this, or drug lords and all that, and he actually finds out, he's very hot-headed, let me put it like this, and I get his character in this as well, and he has to come to realize and learn to the fact that basically what was killing everybody is an alien. The greatest part about this movie is the second half of this movie, when he basically goes to the Predator and has a go. Basically, he won't give up. He's one of those people that wants to get the person that killed his friend. And that action sequence towards the end of the movie, I think, is probably one of the best action. No, it's just one of the best action sequences that I have seen. I'm not saying it is the best. I'm just saying it's one of, because there is a lot of build up towards this, and it's there. There's that bit on the roof. We got the bit on the spaceship, which I'm going to touch on in a minute. It's just, there's all sorts of different things in here. The storyline isn't hard, I have to admit. There's nothing complicated about this storyline. It's very easily set out. To be honest with you, it kind of mirrors the first one in certain ways. In certain ways, not always. It's just the fact that the Predator's in a completely different environment. He does a lot more killing. It basically shows how vicious and brutal that some people can be, and it's kind of like, I don't know what, like I said, I don't enjoy Predator 2 as much as I do the first one, but I do still enjoy watching it, and it's just, I like it. It's not the best, I have to admit, but there are things in this movie I like I mentioned. The way the Predator moves again, love that. The weaponry, you get to see a bit more of that. The performances in there is kind of what I expected anyway. And it's still a movie that I can actually go back and watch. Like I said, with action sequences in this, I actually enjoyed it. Yes, okay, most of the action sequences are the Predator killing somebody. But then you get towards the end scene, which I've already mentioned, where I love it, and then you get right to the very end, and you do actually just get a tiny little bit of more backstory to the Predator universe. Knowing that they've been around for years, knowing that they've been like from the 1600s, the gun and all that, and then you get the little Easter egg of them teasing Alien versus Predator. That will be a review for another day, I admit, but it's just those elements which just make an enjoyable watch. Like I said, it's not the best movie ever, but it's still an enjoyable watch. So with a rate, I would give this a rating. It's not as good as the first one, but it's still fucking epic. And I enjoy these kind of movies anyway from 80s. It's just like a sci-fi thriller horror kind of movie, loaded with a bit of gore and plenty of action, which I just enjoy. It's one of those movies which I can constantly go back and watch and enjoy it. It's that simple. So, on that note, please tell me what you think. Put it in the comments down below as normal. I hope you all have a great rest of the day, whatever you're doing. Please take care and goodbye.